New York City, Yilmaz's penthouse, 11:47 p.m. Mia Carter was certain of three things. First, she was invisible. Second, men like Aslan Yilmaz never looked twice at women like her. Third, the sound of an explosion 200 meters in the air was much worse than she'd ever imagined. The floor-to-ceiling windows shattered inward into the ballroom. Mia threw herself to the floor on instinct, her glasses flying off her face, the tight red bun she religiously wore every day coming undone. Expensive champagne mixed with blood on the Italian marble. Aslan Yilmaz and Zoe Whitmore's engagement party had turned into a war zone. "Aslan!" Zoe's scream cut through the chaos, but not in his direction. She was already running toward the private elevator, Louboutin heels hammering the floor, white silk dress flowing as she fled without looking back. Mia crawled through the debris, searching. Where is he? She found Aslan near the balcony, or what was left of it. He was lying face down, blood streaming from his forehead, pooling around his head, his left leg bent at an angle that made Mia's stomach turn. Two dead security guards beside him, smoke everywhere, and he was completely motionless. No, no, no. Mia reached him, hands trembling violently as she searched for a pulse at his neck. Her fingers brushed the tattoo, a roaring lion in Turkish tribal details that she'd never seen before. He always wore a tie. Thump, 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 pulse. Weak but there. "Mr. Yilmaz, Aslan." She carefully turned his body, checking for breathing. Shallow. Too fast. Blood poured from a deep gash on his forehead and from puncture wounds in his left leg. "Stay with me, please, stay with me." He didn't respond. His eyes, green like polished jade, usually so cold and arrogant, were closed. Mia removed the gray blazer she wore as her daily armor, tore her own silk blouse, the only expensive piece she owned, and applied pressure to the leg wound. Warm blood soaked her hands. "I need help here," she screamed into the surrounding chaos. "Someone call an ambulance." As if summoned, men in black suits flooded the room. Mia recognized Khan, head of security, and Demir, Aslan's cousin. Both stopped at the scene. "He's alive," Mia said quickly, voice steady despite the panic pounding in her chest. "But losing too much blood. Head trauma. Possible spinal injury." "Who are you?" Khan asked, confused. "His secretary. Now move!" Demir was already on his phone. "Dr. Mehmet, we need you at Yilmaz Memorial. Now. Executive level." A pause. "It's Aslan. Yilmaz Memorial?" Mia frowned while maintaining pressure on the wound. "Family hospital," Demir explained, already gesturing for other guards to bring a stretcher. "Private wing. Trusted staff. Safer than any public hospital. Of course, because families like the Yilmaz didn't trust their secrets or their vulnerability to strangers. It took 12 minutes to the private hospital. 12 minutes of Mia in the back of the armored SUV, keeping Aslan stable, checking his pulse every 30 seconds, whispering things he probably couldn't hear. "You're not going to die. Understand? Not when I finally got that raise last week. Not when I still have to review the Volkov merger contracts. Not when I still haven't told you I love you, you arrogant idiot." But she kept that to herself. Yilmaz Memorial was in Midtown, discreet on the outside, luxurious inside. The executive wing on the top floor was practically a fortress with medical equipment. Mia was pushed aside when the medical team took control, but she refused to leave completely. She stayed in the waiting room, alone. Zoe didn't show up. Aslan's parents were in Turkey. Demir had already called. They'd take the private jet but wouldn't arrive for another 10 hours. Other Yilmaz family members began arriving. Uncles, cousins, businessmen in expensive suits with calculating looks. All completely ignored Mia, the invisible secretary still stained with blood, wild red hair, torn shirt, covered only by a security guard's blazer. 4 hours later, Dr. Mehmet emerged from surgery. He was a middle-aged man, graying hair, grave expression. "The bullet passed through the left thigh and fragmented," he said directly, without preamble. "We managed to remove the fragments, but one hit the sciatic nerve and caused severe damage to the lumbar region of the spine. The head trauma is moderate. Concussion, but no internal bleeding." "Will he survive?" Demir asked. "Yes. Collective relief. But he won't walk. The nerve damage is too extensive. Paralysis from the waist down." Dr. Mehmet paused heavily. "Aslan Yilmaz is permanently in a wheelchair." Silence. Then the whispers began. Mia caught fragments. "Weak now. Rivals will attack. Who takes control? Like hyenas circling wounded prey." When will he wake up? Mia asked, her voice cutting through the whispers. Everyone looked at her as if they'd forgotten she existed. Who are you? One of the uncles asked, disdainful. His secretary, Mia replied, chin raised. And I asked the doctor. Dr. Mehmet studied her for a moment. Then something like respect crossed his face. A few hours. He's sedated now. When he wakes, he'll be disoriented, in pain. Can I see him? Family only. She saved his life, Demir interrupted softly. If it weren't for Miss Carter, Aslan would have bled out before we arrived. Let her see him. The doctor nodded. Mia followed a nurse to the private room. It was more hotel suite than hospital room. Dark wood furniture, window overlooking the city, state-of-the-art medical equipment discreetly positioned. And Aslan, at the center of it all, motionless in bed. He looked smaller like this, vulnerable. His normally impeccable black hair was disheveled, white bandage wrapped around his head, white sheets covering his body, but Mia could see where his legs were, inert. The neck tattoo was completely visible now. The roaring lion seemed ironic. The king of animals, trapped. Mia pulled up a chair and sat beside the bed. She took his right hand, large, calloused, with small scars she'd never noticed. You're an idiot, she whispered. An arrogant idiot who never saw me, who's engaged to the wrong woman, who makes enemies like other people collect stamps. His hand remained still in hers. But you're also brilliant, ruthless when necessary, fair with employees. You remember the cleaning crew's birthdays. You donate anonymously to orphanages. You pay for surgeries for employees' families. Tears burned her eyes. You're a good man pretending to be terrible. And she swallowed hard. I'm pathetic enough to have fallen in love with you. Mia didn't expect a response. Aslan was deeply sedated, so she nearly had a heart attack when his fingers twitched slightly around hers. She froze, waiting, but nothing else happened, probably just muscle reflex. She stayed anyway. Night gave way to dawn. Nurses came and went. Demir brought coffee and a set of clean clothes that Mia thanked him for but didn't use. She wasn't leaving. At 9:17 a.m., 7 hours after surgery, Aslan's eyes finally opened. He blinked slowly, disoriented, gaze wandering around the room until it landed on Mia, and fixed there. You, his voice came out hoarse, rough. You stayed. It wasn't a question. It was surprise, genuine shock. Where else would I be? Mia squeezed his hand. Someone needs to make sure you don't make any more idiotic decisions. My head. He tried to move, grimaced in pain. You have a concussion and... Mia took a deep breath. He deserved to know. Aslan, there were complications in surgery. The bullet damaged nerves in your spine. You won't be able to walk. She expected denial, anger, despair. Instead, Aslan simply closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again, there was cold acceptance there, resignation, as if he'd already expected the universe to betray him. Zoe? He asked. Mia hesitated. She's not here. She ran. Yes. Smart. A bitter smile. Rats always abandon the sinking ship. You're not sinking. I am. Aslan finally looked at her. Really looked. The green eyes traveled over her face with an intensity that stole the air from Mia's lungs. You took off your glasses. They broke. In the explosion. Your hair. He raised his free hand, fingers hesitantly touching a red lock falling over her shoulder. It's red. Fire red. Auburn. She corrected automatically. And you have a concussion. You should rest. 5 years. Aslan murmured, still studying her. 5 years, and I never really saw your eyes, never saw your hair down, never. He stopped. How was I so blind? You were busy running an empire, Mia said lightly, trying to ignore the way his touch made her skin tingle. And I was busy being invisible. Why? Why what? Why did you stay? The green eyes pinned her. When bombs exploded, when I fell, when everyone fled, even my fiancé, you stayed. Why, Mia Carter? His use of her full name shocked her. He knew her last name. Of course he did. It was in HR files. But hearing him say it with that Turkish accent transforming each syllable, because, Mia searched for the right words, because someone had to stay, and it happened to be me. That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get right now. She stood, trying to regain professional distance. You need to rest. Your parents arrive in a few hours. Demir is handling security and... I need you. Mia froze. Excuse me? Aslan tried to sit up. grimaced when his legs didn't respond. Frustration crossed his face, but he pushed it down. Always controlled, always in command, even shattered. Sit down, Miss Carter. We need to discuss your new employment contract. My, what? You'll be promoted. From executive secretary to, he paused, eyes never leaving her face, to my wife. The world stopped. Mia was sure she'd heard wrong. His concussion was worse than they thought. He was delirious. Aslan, you have a fiancé. Had. He grabbed his phone from the side table, showed her the screen. A message from Zoe, received at 4:37 a.m. Can't do this. Sorry, you'll understand. Ring is with your mother. She'd broken up with him via text message while he was in surgery. That. Mia bit back the ugly word she wanted to say. Coward? Opportunist? Gold digger? Aslan smiled bitterly. All of the above, but she was honest in the end. Didn't promise to stay in sickness when she only wanted health. Still not a reason to propose to me. It's not a proposal. It's a business arrangement. Aslan studied her. You know my empire better than anyone. You speak 4 languages. You have an MBA from Columbia you never mentioned in your job interview. You're loyal, competent, and you stayed. His voice softened. When everyone fled, Mia Carter, invisible secretary I used and ignored for 5 years, tore her own clothes to save my life. That's worth more than love. That's trust. You're insane. Brain injury. I'm calling the doctor. I'm perfectly lucid. He took her hand again. Hear my proposal before you refuse. 1 year of marriage. You get title, wealth, protection of the Yilmaz family. Separate apartment if you want. Total freedom. No conjugal obligations. Unless you change your mind. Mia felt her face heat. In return, Aslan continued relentless. You stand by my side in public. Help me maintain control of the family while I figure out who tried to kill me. Act as my wife until I'm no longer vulnerable. After 1 year, if you want divorce, you'll have it. With generous compensation. Why me? Mia whispered. Why not someone else from the family? A strategic alliance with another organization. Because alliance means debt. Means giving power to strangers. The green eyes burned her. And because when I looked at you today, really looked, I saw something I was too idiotic to see before. I saw strength, courage, loyalty that can't be bought. He pulled her closer. I saw the woman who saved my life while my fiancé saved hers. And I thought that if I'm going to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair, surrounded by hyenas waiting for me to weaken, I want by my side someone who doesn't see me as a blank check or an object of pity. I want someone who treats me like a man, even when I'm being an idiot. Especially when you're being an idiot, Mia corrected, without thinking. Aslan smiled. A real smile, not the corporate mask. So you accept? Mia should have said no. Should have run. Should have done anything except look at that arrogant, broken man, too proud to beg but too desperate to hide. But she thought about Zoe running. Thought about 5 years being invisible. Thought about loving silently a man who never saw her. And thought that maybe, just maybe, being seen was worth the risk. 6 months, she counter-proposed, and we reassess after. 1 year, we reassess every 6 months. 8 months. 10. Final offer. Mia extended her hand. Deal, Mr. Yilmaz. Aslan shook it but didn't let go. It's Aslan now, Nishanlam. If you're going to be my wife, you'd better use my name. That means, my fiancé. The green eyes gleamed with something dangerous. Promise? Challenge? Better start learning Turkish, Mia. My mother will test you. Your mother doesn't even know I exist. She will in 3 hours when she lands. Aslan pulled her even closer until Mia practically leaned over the bed. And in 3 days, when we announced the wedding. 3 days? The world doesn't wait, Ashcombe. And our enemies certainly won't. Mia looked at her hand in his. Small, pale, still with traces of dried blood under her nails that she couldn't completely clean. You're going to regret this, she warned. Probably. Aslan studied her face as if memorizing every detail. But something tells me you will too, Mia Carter. Something tells me we're both about to regret this very, very deeply. He was right. But neither Aslan nor Mia knew yet that regret was the least of their concerns. Because across the city, in a dark office, a man watched news feeds about the assassination attempt on Turkish-American businessman, and smiled. Aslan Yilmaz had survived. For now. But the game had just begun. And the red-haired secretary who saved the wounded lion? She'd just become the most valuable piece on the board. Yilmaz Memorial Hospital. Day 2, 6:47 a.m. Mia had been living in the hospital for 48 hours straight. She'd changed clothes once, courtesy of Demir, who'd sent someone to her tiny Brooklyn apartment, but hadn't left Aslan's side for more than bathroom breaks and coffee runs. The Yilmaz family had descended like a flock of well-dressed vultures. Aslan's mother, Aylin Yilmaz, was a stunning woman in her late 50s who carried herself like royalty. She'd swept into the hospital room, taken one look at Mia sitting beside her son's bed, and raised one perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "And who is this?" she'd asked in Turkish accented English, sharp as cut glass. "My fiancé," Aslan had replied calmly. "Mia Carter. Mia, this is my mother Aylin." The temperature in the room had dropped 10 degrees. "You're what?" Aylin's voice could have frozen the Hudson River. "Aslan Kerem Yilmaz, you were engaged to Zoe Whitmore 2 days ago. Zoe broke our engagement while I was in surgery." Aslan interrupted, voice flat. "Mia saved my life. She stays." The standoff had been spectacular. Mother and son, both stubborn, both proud, green eyes locked in silent battle. Finally, Aylin had turned to Mia. "We will speak later, Miss Carter. Privately." That conversation was scheduled for today. Mia was dreading it. But first, the medical team had arrived. Dr. Mehmet entered with 3 specialists, a neurologist from Johns Hopkins, a spinal surgeon from Mayo Clinic, and a rehabilitation expert from Mount Sinai, all flown in at Yilmaz's expense, all top of their fields. "Mr. Yilmaz," Dr. Mehmet began, "we need to run comprehensive tests, MRI, CT scans, nerve conduction studies, to determine the exact extent of damage and," he paused, "to assess if there are any treatment options." Aslan's jaw tightened. "You said the damage was permanent." "I said extensive," the neurologist corrected gently. "But we need detailed imaging to know for certain. Medical technology has advanced significantly. There might be possibilities we can't determine without proper evaluation." Mia's heart leaped. Hope. Dangerous, fragile hope. "Fine." Aslan's voice was carefully neutral. "Do your tests." The next 6 hours were a blur of medical procedures. Mia wasn't allowed in the imaging rooms, so she paced the hallway like a caged animal. Demir brought her lunch. She didn't eat it. Aylin found her there. "Walk with me, Miss Carter." It wasn't a request. They walked to a private lounge on the executive floor, all leather furniture and original artwork. Aylin sat with the grace of a queen. Mia perched on the edge of a chair, suddenly aware of her wrinkled clothes and hastily tied hair. "Tell me," Aylin said, pouring Turkish tea from a silver service that had appeared from nowhere. "How long have you been in love with my son?" Mia choked on air. What? I'm not, please." Aylin's green eyes, so like Aslan's, were knowing. "I have 3 sons. I know the difference between a woman who wants my family's money and a woman who would bleed for one of them. You have blood under your fingernails still, Miss Carter. His blood." Mia looked down. Aylin was right. Despite scrubbing, dark crescents remained. 5 years, she whispered. "I've loved him for 5 years. And he never saw you." "No. My son," Aylin said softly, "is brilliant in business, ruthless when needed, but in matters of the heart, he is," she searched for words, "blind, like his father. I had to practically throw myself at Osman before he noticed I existed." Despite everything, Mia smiled slightly. "But Aslan sees you now," Aylin continued, "and that terrifies him. Do you know why? Because I saw him at his weakest? Because you stayed when he was weak." Aylin leaned forward. "My son has spent his entire life being strong, being the heir, the enforcer, the one who never breaks. And in one night, he broke. And you didn't run. That kind of loyalty is more dangerous than love, Miss Carter. It demands reciprocation. I don't want—" "You want everything," Aylin interrupted, but not unkindly. "You want him to see you, to value you, to love you as you love him. And you terrify him because he's starting to realize he might." Mia's throat tightened. "I will ask you one question, and I need complete honesty." Aylin's voice hardened. "Are you marrying my son for his money? No. For his power? No. Then why?" Mia met those green eyes, judge and jury in one gaze. "Because when everyone else saw a liability, I saw the man I've always known. And I'll be damned if I let vultures circle him while he's down." Silence stretched. Then Aylin smiled, genuinely smiled. "Welcome to the family, Gelinim. You'll need to be fierce. The wolves are already gathering." Day 4, 2:34 p.m. The test results came back. The medical team gathered in Aslan's room. Mia stood beside his wheelchair. He'd refused to stay in bed once he could sit up. His hand found hers, squeezed once. She squeezed back. Dr. Mehmet pulled up scans on a tablet. The damage is severe. The bullet fragment severed the L4-L5 nerve connection and caused significant trauma to the spinal cord. He zoomed in on a bright area. However, Aslan's voice was carefully controlled. The spinal surgeon took over. However, the cord itself isn't completely severed. There's compression, inflammation, damaged nerve pathways, but there's also preserved tissue. With advanced microsurgery, nerve grafting, and post-operative regenerative therapy. English doctor, Aslan said flatly. There's a chance you could walk again. The room went silent. Mia's hand tightened on Aslan's shoulder. Hope, that dangerous thing. What kind of chance? She asked when Aslan didn't speak. 40%, the neurologist said honestly. The surgery would take 12 to 14 hours. High risk of complications, infection, complete paralysis, stroke. You'd need months of rehabilitation, intensive therapy, and even then, we can't guarantee full recovery. You might regain partial function. You might walk with assistance or I might die on the table. Aslan finished. The mortality risk is approximately 15%. Dr. Mehmet confirmed quietly. And there's a 20% chance the surgery could make things worse. Complete paralysis, loss of other functions. So 65% chance of negative outcomes versus 40% chance of walking again, Aslan said. Those are terrible odds. They are, the surgeon agreed. But they're the only odds we can offer. The decision is entirely yours, Mr. Yilmaz. Take time to think about it. The medical team filed out, leaving Mia and Aslan alone. You should do it, Mia said immediately. No. Aslan. The answer is no, Mia. He wheeled toward the window, looking out at Manhattan spread below them. 15% chance I die. 20% I end up worse. For a 40% possibility of walking, no rational person would take those odds. You're not just any person. I'm a man running a multi-billion-dollar empire with enemies who tried to kill me 4 days ago. His voice was cold, factual. I can't afford to be weak for months of surgery and recovery. I can't afford to die on an operating table and leave my family vulnerable. I can't afford to gamble. But you could walk. I can lead from a wheelchair. He spun to face her, green eyes blazing. This chair doesn't make me less capable of running my business, managing my family, or hunting down whoever tried to murder me. What would make me incapable is being dead or completely paralyzed. Mia knelt in front of him, hands on his knees. I know you're scared. I'm not scared. I'm practical. But his hands trembled slightly as they covered hers. The surgery is off the table, Mia. That's final. She wanted to argue, wanted to shake him, wanted to scream that he deserved the chance to walk again, to not give up, to fight. But she saw the set of his jaw, the finality in his eyes. Okay, she whispered. But the technology is advancing every day. Maybe in 6 months, a year, the odds will be better. The risk's lower. Just don't close the door completely, please. Something softened in his face. He touched her cheek, gentle, reverent, like she was something precious. You're the only person who's asked me what I want instead of telling me what I should do, he said quietly. My mother wants me to try surgery. My father thinks I should accept fate. My cousins are already positioning themselves to take over if I'm incapacitated. But you just asked me to keep hope alive, because I know you, Mia said. And the Aslan Yilmaz I know doesn't accept limitations. He finds ways around them. Is that the man you love? The question was soft, vulnerable. Or the man you think I should be? They're the same man. She stood but kept her hands in his. I love the ruthless businessman who donated $100,000 to the Children's Hospital anonymously last Christmas. I love the arrogant boss who remembers that I take my coffee with 2 sugars and no cream. I love the broken king in a wheelchair who's too stubborn to admit he's terrified. I am terrified, Aslan admitted, so quietly she barely heard. Not of the chair, not even of dying, but of becoming irrelevant, powerless, weak. Then let me make you a promise, Mia said firmly. As long as I'm by your side, you'll never be powerless. We'll figure this out together. The surgery, the enemies, the family politics, all of it. Together. He studied her face like he was seeing her for the first time again. You know I'm going to be difficult. You're always difficult. Demanding. Understatement of the century. Possibly fall in love with you. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. Would that be a problem, Miss Carter? Her heart stopped. What? Fair warning, Aslan said, hint of a smile. I'm starting to see what I missed for 5 years. And I don't like missing things. Before she could respond, a knock interrupted them. Demir entered, expression grave. The mansion is ready. Security is in place. Your parents want you home. He glanced at Mia. Both of you. 2 weeks later, Yilmaz Estate, Bedford Hills. The Yilmaz mansion was obscene. 20,000 square feet of stone and glass set on 15 acres of private land, 40 minutes north of Manhattan. Security everywhere. Cameras, guards, reinforced everything. Mia's apartment turned out to be an entire wing of the 3rd floor. Bedroom suite, private bathroom, sitting room, office. Bigger than her entire Brooklyn apartment building. Aslan's master suite was on the opposite end. For propriety, Aylin had said with a knowing look. But propriety was the last thing on Mia's mind as she stood in Aslan's physical therapy room, watching him work with gritted teeth determination on upper body strength. 2 weeks out of the hospital. Wedding scheduled for 3 days from now. The press announcement had caused a media firestorm. Injured mogul's secret romance with loyal secretary topped every gossip site. Zoe had given an exclusive interview painting herself as the victim. Mia had learned to ignore it. You're staring, Aslan said without looking at her, pulling himself up on parallel bars. I'm supervising. You're worried I'll collapse. You collapsed yesterday. I was tired. He hauled himself up again, muscles straining under his fitted shirt. The tattoo on his neck glistened with sweat. Mia tried not to notice how attractive determination looked on him. The wedding planner called again, she said instead. Your mother approved the final menu. We need to confirm the guest list. How many? 300. Aslan dropped back into his chair, breathing hard. 300 witnesses to our business arrangement. 300 witnesses to our marriage, Mia corrected, handing him a towel. Real or not, we have to sell it. He caught her wrist, pulled her closer. And if I stopped pretending it was just business? Her breath caught. Aslan, I think about it, you know. His green eyes were intense, focused entirely on her. About 40% odds. About walking again. About being the man who could... He stopped. Could what? Could deserve you. Mia's heart broke and soared simultaneously. You idiot. You already deserve... 3 days until we're married, he interrupted, releasing her wrist. And I still haven't kissed my fiancé. Seems wrong. We agreed. We agreed no obligations. Kissing isn't an obligation, Mia. It's a choice. He wheeled closer. So I'm asking, may I kiss you? She should say no. Keep boundaries. Protect her heart. Yes, she whispered. He pulled her down gently, hand cradling her face. The kiss was soft, questioning, reverent. Nothing like she'd imagined. No demand, no possession, just discovery. When they broke apart, both breathless, Aslan rested his forehead against hers. 40% suddenly seems like very good odds, he murmured. And Mia realized they'd just made everything infinitely more complicated. Yilmaz Estate, wedding day, 4:47 p.m. Mia stared at herself in the floor-length mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. The dress was Aylin's choice. Ivory silk that hugged every curve Mia had spent 5 years hiding, with delicate lace sleeves and a train that whispered across the marble floor. Her red hair fell in soft waves down her back, held by a simple diamond clip. Minimal makeup, natural, beautiful. You look like you're going to throw up, said Rachel, her only bridesmaid and college roommate, who'd flown in from Boston that morning still demanding explanations. I might, Mia admitted. It's not too late to run. Yes, it is. Mia touched the diamond pendant at her throat, Aslan's gift that morning, with a note. For courage. She needed courage. Because somewhere downstairs, 300 guests waited. Politicians, business moguls, families whose names appeared in Forbes, and somewhere among them, enemies who'd tried to kill her groom 2 weeks ago. Miss Carter? Demir appeared at the door, impeccable in his tuxedo. It's time. The ceremony was held in the mansion's grand hall, all soaring ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured gardens. White roses everywhere, string quartet playing softly. And at the altar, Aslan waited. Mia's breath caught. He wore a custom black tuxedo that somehow made the wheelchair disappear. His black hair was perfectly styled, the lion tattoo just visible above his collar. But it was his eyes that stopped her. Those green eyes locked on her with an intensity that made her forget the crowd, the cameras, the pretense. He looked at her like she was the only person in the world. Osman Yilmaz, Aslan's father, walked her down the aisle, a compromise since her own father had passed years ago. The older man patted her hand. "Be patient with him," he whispered. "Yilmaz men are stubborn, but we love fiercely once we surrender." Then she was standing before Aslan, and the world narrowed to just them. "You're stunning," he murmured, taking her hand. His thumb traced circles on her palm, a small gesture of comfort that nobody else could see. "You clean up okay yourself," she whispered back. The officiant began. Traditional words about love and commitment and forever. Words that felt too heavy for a business arrangement. But when Aslan spoke his vows, his voice steady and clear, something shifted. "I, Aslan Karam Yilmaz, take you Mia Elizabeth Carter to be my wife. I promise to see you, truly see you every day, to value your strength, your courage, your loyalty, to protect you, honor you, and stand by your side against whatever comes. In power or weakness, in wealth or poverty, in health or—" He paused, jaw tightening. "In sickness. You stayed when everyone fled. I promise I will never give you reason to run." Mia's eyes burned with unshed tears. Her turn. She'd prepared something safe, businesslike. But looking into those green eyes, the rehearsed words evaporated. "I, Mia Elizabeth Carter, take you Aslan Karam Yilmaz to be my husband. I promise to never let you forget your worth has nothing to do with your legs and everything to do with your heart. To challenge you when you're being impossible, support you when you're vulnerable, and remind you daily that you're more than what you've lost. You saw me when I was invisible. I promise to always see you, all of you." Someone in the audience sniffled. Aylin dabbed her eyes with a silk handkerchief. "The rings," the officiant prompted. Demir stepped forward with the bands, simple platinum, elegant. Aslan slid hers on with steady hands, green eyes never leaving hers. When she slid his ring on, his fingers trembled slightly, just for a moment. Vulnerability he'd never show anyone else. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss." Aslan pulled her down before the officiant finished, one hand cupping her face, the other at her waist. The kiss was nothing like their first. This one was possession, promise, and something that felt dangerously close to forever. The crowd erupted in applause. "Hello, wife," Aslan murmured against her lips, eyes glinting with something that made her heart race. "Hello, husband," she whispered back. The reception was a blur of congratulations, champagne toasts, and calculating looks from business associates trying to determine if this marriage was legitimate or strategic. Mia danced with Osman, who spun her gently and said, "You're good for him. He smiles now." She danced with Demir, who whispered, "Watch yourself. Someone here wanted him dead. Stay close." She danced with business partners whose names she forgot immediately, her eyes always drifting back to Aslan holding court from his wheelchair, commanding the room despite being seated. Finally, as the sun set and golden light flooded through the windows, Aslan wheeled to the edge of the dance floor. "Dance with me," he said simply. "Aslan, you can't." "I said dance with me, Mia." His voice was soft but firm. "Trust me." She stepped close. He pulled her down onto his lap, carefully, intimately, one arm steel-strong around her waist, the other taking her hand, and as the quartet played a slow waltz, Aslan wheeled them in smooth circles across the floor. It wasn't traditional dancing, but somehow with her in his arms, their foreheads touching, her hand in his, it was more intimate than any dance she'd ever had. "Everyone's watching," she whispered. "Let them watch." He pulled her closer. "Let them see that Aslan Yilmaz doesn't need legs to hold his wife. Is that what I am?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "Your wife? Really?" He stopped moving, turned her face to his. The ballroom, the guests, the performance, all faded. "Mia Carter Yilmaz," he said slowly, deliberately. "That's your name now. My ring is on your finger. You're in my arms. You're sleeping under my roof. And in approximately 3 hours you'll be in my bed if you choose. So yes, you're my wife." "Really?" Her pulse thundered. "Your bed?" "Separate rooms was my mother's idea, not mine." His thumb traced her lower lip. "But I'm not pushing. When you're ready, if you're ready, you know where to find me." Before she could respond, the music ended. Applause surrounded them. The party continued late into the night. Finally, as midnight approached, Aylin caught Mia's arm. "Go to him," she said simply. "The guests will leave. Staff will clean. But my son is in his room alone on his wedding night, too proud to ask you to stay." Mia's heart pounded. "I don't know if you love him." He's falling for you. Stop overthinking. Aylin smiled. Life is too short for separate rooms and wasted chances. Trust me, I know. Mia stood outside Aslan's suite, still in her wedding dress, hand raised to knock. The door opened before she could. Aslan sat there in the doorway, tie undone, shirt partially unbuttoned, eyes dark with want and something more vulnerable. I was hoping you'd come, he said quietly. I'm terrified, she admitted. So am I. He held out his hand. But we promised to face things together, didn't we? She took his hand and stepped into their future, uncertain, complicated, but finally, real. Yilmaz estate, wedding reception, 11:34 p.m. The attack came during the cake cutting. One moment Mia stood beside Aslan, his hand warm over hers on the knife, cameras flashing as 300 guests watched them slice through 5 tiers of elaborate fondant. The next moment, the western windows exploded inward. Glass shattered. Screams erupted. Aslan's arm locked around Mia's waist, yanking her down as his wheelchair tipped sideways. They hit the floor hard, his body covering hers. Stay down, he ordered, voice cutting through chaos. Gunfire peppered the walls above them. Guests scattered like birds, expensive gowns and tuxedos trampling over broken crystal. The security team materialized from nowhere. Khan barking orders, guards forming a human shield around the wedding party. South perimeter breach, someone shouted into a radio. 3 shooters, maybe 4. Another explosion. The chandelier swayed dangerously. We need to move. Demir appeared, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. He grabbed Aslan's wheelchair, righting it. Safe room. Now. The guests, Mia started, are not my priority. You are. Aslan pulled her up, shoved her toward Demir. Go. Not without you. Stubborn woman. But he was already wheeling after her, Khan and 4 guards surrounding them in tight formation. They moved as a unit through the mansion's back corridors, routes Mia had memorized during her 2 weeks here. Behind them, gunfire continued. Shouts. More breaking glass. The safe room was behind the library, accessible only by fingerprint and retinal scan. Steel-reinforced walls, independent air supply, enough provisions for 2 weeks. Demir shoved them inside along with Aylin, Osman, and 3 guards. The door sealed with a hydraulic hiss. Status, Aslan demanded immediately, wheeling to the bank of security monitors that lined one wall. Khan's voice crackled through the intercom. 4 shooters confirmed, professional-grade weapons. They knew exactly when to hit. Minimal security presence during cake cutting. Our teams are engaging. On the monitors, Mia watched the battle play out across multiple camera angles. Security guards exchanged fire with masked figures. Guests huddled in protected corners. One attacker went down, then another. There, Aslan pointed to a screen showing the East Garden. A 5th figure hanging back, speaking into a phone. That's the coordinator. Zoom in. The image enlarged. The man's mask had slipped slightly, revealing partial profile. Dmitry Volkov, Osman said quietly, voice heavy with recognition and rage. The merger. Mia's mind raced. The contracts I was reviewing. The Volkov family was supposed to be our partners in the shipping expansion. Aslan finished, jaw clenched. 3 months of negotiations. Contracts ready to sign next week, and now this. Because you're vulnerable, Demir said grimly. In a wheelchair. New wife instead of established alliance with the Whitmore family. They think you're weak. They're making a move. Then they're about to learn they were wrong. Aslan's voice dropped to something cold and deadly. Khan, I want Dmitry alive. The others, your discretion. But I need Dmitry breathing enough to talk. Copy that, boss. The firefight lasted another 7 minutes. When silence finally fell, Khan's voice returned. Area secure. 3 shooters dead. 1 wounded and contained. Dmitry Volkov in custody. Casualties. 4 guests with minor injuries. 2 guards wounded, non-critical. Could have been much worse. Because of the safe room protocols. Aslan looked at Mia, and because someone made me paranoid about security 2 weeks ago. She'd insisted on the extra cameras, the additional guards, the rehearsed evacuation routes. He'd called her paranoid. Now that paranoia had saved lives. I want Dmitry in the wine cellar in 20 minutes, Aslan said. Soundproofed. Private. And get Dr. Mehmet here for our wounded. Aslan, Aylin interjected, voice sharp. You are not interrogating him tonight. You just got married. You were nearly killed. Again. Which is exactly why it has to be tonight. He wheeled toward the door. They attacked my wedding. Endangered my wife. My family. That requires immediate response. Then I'm coming with you, Mia said. Absolutely not. I'm your wife now, remember? We face things together. She stood directly in front of his chair. You don't get to protect me from the ugly parts. I signed up for all of it. Something shifted in his expression. Pride, respect, fear. You signed up for a business arrangement, he said quietly. I signed up for you. All of you. That includes the part that interrogates enemies in wine cellars. Aslan stared at her for a long moment, then turned to his father. Apparently I married a very stubborn woman. Yes, Osmond said with hint of a smile. You did, just like your father before you. The wine cellar was exactly as advertised. Soundproofed, private, and currently containing one very bloody Dmitry Volkov tied to a chair. Mia forced herself not to flinch. This was the world she'd married into. Time to prove she could handle it. Aslan wheeled in with Demir flanking him. The temperature in the room dropped. Dmitry. Aslan's voice was conversational, almost pleasant. We had a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. You're early. Go to hell, Yilmaz. Dmitry spat blood. You're finished. Whole city knows you're crippled now. Weak. The families are circling. This was just the opening move. Interesting. Aslan circled the chair slowly. So, not just Volkov. A coalition. Who else? Markov? DeLuca? The Chicago outfit? Dmitry's silence was confirmation. Here's what's going to happen, Aslan continued calmly. You're going to give me names, dates, and plans for every move against me. In exchange, I'll make your death quick instead of creative. You can't touch me. You've got nothing. Aslan leaned forward. You attacked a wedding. 300 witnesses, including federal judges, senators, and the police commissioner. Even your family won't protect you from that level of stupidity. They'll just send someone else. They'll try. Aslan's smile was sharp. But here's what you don't understand, Dmitry. I don't need legs to destroy you. I need 3 things: intelligence, resources, and ruthlessness. I have all 3 in abundance. What I also have now, he glanced at Mia, is motivation. He wheeled even closer, voice dropping to a whisper only Dmitry could hear. Whatever he said made the man's face drain of color. 20 minutes later they had everything. Names, safe houses, bank accounts, communication channels, a complete blueprint of the coalition planning to dismantle the Yilmaz Empire. Take him to the federal holding facility, Aslan ordered. Anonymous tip about the attack. Let the system handle him. His own people will take care of the rest. Can't have him talking more. As they led Dmitry away, Aslan finally allowed exhaustion to show. His hands trembled slightly on the wheelchair arms. Mia knelt beside him. Hey, you okay? No. He touched her face, fingers gentle despite the violence he'd just orchestrated. They came after you. If that glass had been 2 feet to the left, but it wasn't, I'm fine, we're fine. For now. Which is why, he pulled out his phone. We're leaving in 4 hours. Leaving? The Catskills house. Remote, secure, heavily fortified. We're supposed to honeymoon for a week anyway, might as well actually do it. His eyes met hers. I need to regroup, plan counterattacks, and I need you somewhere they can't reach you. Aslan, running away, is not running. It's strategy. He took her hand. Dmitry was right about one thing. The family see me as weak right now. I need time to prove I'm not, and I need you safe while I do it. Mia wanted to argue, but she saw the fear beneath his controlled exterior. Fear for her. 4 hours, she agreed. But I'm packing weapons. Despite everything, he smiled. That's my wife. Yilmaz Catskills estate. Next morning, 9:47. The country house was a sprawling mountain compound. Modern glass and stone, surrounded by 50 acres of private forest, with security that would make the Secret Service jealous. They'd driven through the night, Mia dozing against Aslan's shoulder in the back of the armored SUV while he worked on his laptop, already planning countermoves. Now, morning light streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a pristine lake. The master suite was all warm wood and soft textures with a fireplace, private deck, and a bed big enough for 4 people. One bed. They'd slept in the same bed last night at the mansion, exhausted, still in wedding clothes, just holding each other. Nothing more. But now, in daylight, in this beautiful isolation, the reality of their marriage felt suddenly very real. You should rest, Aslan said, wheeling onto the deck. It's been 24 hours since we got married and someone tried to kill us again. Mia joined him, wrapping a throw blanket around her shoulders against the mountain chill. I'm too wired to sleep. Then sit with me. Watch the sunrise. Pretend we're normal people on a normal honeymoon. She sat on the lounge chair beside him. His hand found hers, fingers interlacing naturally now. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what? For this being your honeymoon. Violence, danger, interrogations. He stared at the lake. You deserved better. Flowers, romance, peace. I got you, Mia said simply. That's better. He turned to her, green eyes intense in the golden morning light. You mean that? I mean that. Even though I can't give you the honeymoon you should have? Can't sweep you off your feet, can't? Mia moved onto his lap, silencing him with a kiss. Deep, thorough, leaving no room for doubt. You can give me honesty, she whispered against his lips. Loyalty, partnership. You can give me the man behind the empire. Vulnerable and strong, broken and whole. That's the honeymoon I want, Aslan. Not some fantasy. This. Us. Real. His arms tightened around her waist. I'm falling in love with you, Mia Carter Yilmaz. Faster than I should. Harder than is safe. Good. She kissed him again. Because I've been in love with you for 5 years. You're just catching up. Then let me catch up properly. He wheeled them inside, toward that enormous bed. We have a week of isolation. No enemies, no family, no empire, just us. Just us, Mia agreed. And for the first time since the explosion that changed everything, they had time to simply be husband and wife. The war could wait. Yilmaz Catskills estate. Day 3 of honeymoon, 6:23 a.m. Mia woke to find Aslan's side of the bed empty and cold. Again. She found him where she always did lately. On the deck, laptop open, phone pressed to his ear, conducting war from a wheelchair, while dawn painted the mountains gold. I don't care about his connections, Aslan said coldly into the phone. Markov knew the risks when he sided with Volkov. Freeze his assets. All of them. And make sure the IRS gets an anonymous tip about his offshore accounts. Mia wrapped the blanket tighter and watched her husband dismantle an empire before breakfast. 3 days into their honeymoon, and Aslan had already destroyed 4 of the 7 families who'd conspired against him. Bank accounts frozen, business licenses revoked, incriminating evidence mysteriously appearing in federal databases. The Yilmaz network was vast, and Aslan wielded it like a surgical scalpel. He was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. DeLuca wants to negotiate. Demir's voice crackled through speakerphone. Says it was Volkov's idea. He was just... Tell DeLuca he has 24 hours to liquidate his New York operations and disappear to Florida. If I see his face in my city again, negotiation is off the table. Aslan's tone left no room for argument. What about the Chicago outfit? Already backing down. Sent formal apology and a very generous wedding gift to smooth things over. Accept the gift. Reject the apology. I want them nervous. Aslan noticed Mia watching, held up one finger. Demir, I'll call you back in an hour. Send the updated reports. He ended the call and turned to her, expression softening immediately. Good morning, wife. Good morning, warlord. Mia settled onto his lap, their new routine. You've been up for hours. Empires don't dismantle themselves. But his arms came around her, solid and warm. Though I'm realizing I'm neglecting my honeymoon duties. Your honeymoon duties involve revenge and corporate espionage? Among other things. He kissed her neck. How do you feel about breakfast in bed? Real breakfast, not me working while you sleep. I feel like you're trying to distract me from the fact that you haven't slept more than 4 hours a night since we got here. Aslan sighed. Can't hide anything from you, can I? Nope. That's what you get for marrying someone who actually pays attention. She turned in his lap to face him. Talk to me. What's really going on in that tactical brain? He was quiet for a long moment, green eyes distant. I keep seeing it. The windows exploding. You on the floor. Glass everywhere. If you'd been standing 2 feet to the left, but I wasn't. This time, his grip tightened. Mia, before you, the risks were just mine. If someone came after me, fine. Calculated risk. But now they're coming after my wife. That changes everything. So you're working yourself to exhaustion to eliminate every threat? I'm ensuring you can sleep safely. His voice was fierce. That you can exist in my world without constantly looking over your shoulder. That our children... He stopped abruptly. Mia's breath caught. Children? Aslan looked almost embarrassed. I know we haven't discussed... this started as business, and we said no obligations, but I can't stop thinking. He trailed off, uncharacteristically uncertain. Tell me. Mia prompted gently. I think about a little girl with your red hair and stubborn spirit, or a boy with your intelligence and my mother's sass. He touched her face. I think about a family, a real one, with you, and then I think about bringing children into this world, my world, while I'm stuck in this chair, unable to protect them properly, and I— Stop, Mia pressed her fingers to his lips. First, you protect everyone just fine from that chair. You're literally dismantling a criminal coalition before coffee. Second, if we have children, they'll have two parents who'd burn the world down for them. That's more protection than most kids get. You want them? His voice was almost vulnerable. With me? I want everything with you, you impossible man. She kissed him softly. Business arrangement, remember? Except now it's a real marriage, and real marriages have conversations about futures and families and surgeries? Aslan interrupted quietly. Mia froze. What? I've been thinking about the surgery. The 40% odds. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Dr. Mehmet sent updated scans. New studies from Germany about nerve regeneration. The odds might be better now. 50, maybe 55%. Her heart hammered. Aslan. I said no before because I couldn't risk weakness. Couldn't afford months of recovery while enemies circled. He finally looked at her. But I've spent 3 days eliminating those enemies. By end of week, the major threats will be neutralized. And I keep thinking, what if I could walk again? What if I could stand beside you at events instead of you bending down to me? What if our future children could see their father on his feet? Our children will love you regardless. I know, but I would know. His voice cracked slightly. I would know I had a chance and was too afraid to take it. Mia's eyes burned. You're not afraid of anything. I'm terrified, he admitted. 15% chance I die on that table. 20% I end up worse. Those odds haven't changed, but— He took her hand, pressed it over his heart. I'm more terrified of looking at you in 10 years and wondering what if. Of our children asking why Daddy never tried. Of being 60 and regretting I let fear decide. When? Mia whispered. Dr. Mehmet can schedule for 3 weeks from now. Time to finish securing the empire, arrange coverage, prepare. He searched her face. But I need to know you're okay with this. If something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong. Mia, be realistic. I am being realistic. Realistically, you're the most stubborn man I've ever met. Death itself would take one look at you and back off. She cupped his face. But if the worst happens, if 15% becomes reality, then I'll handle it. I'll run the empire, raise our future children, live the life we planned, and I'll be furious with you for leaving. But I'll survive. You're crying. Because you're choosing to fight. Tears streamed down her face. You're choosing hope over fear. That's the bravest thing you've ever done, and you've done a lot of brave things. Aslan pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. I love you, Mia Yilmaz. Completely. Terrifyingly. You make me want to be the man who can stand beside you, literally. I love you too, but I need you to understand something. She pulled back to look him in the eyes. I married you in a wheelchair. I fell in love with you in a wheelchair. If you never walk again, you're still everything I want. The surgery is for you, not me. Never doubt that. How did I not see you for 5 years? He wondered. You were busy being a ruthless business mogul. I was an idiot. He kissed her deeply. But I'm making up for lost time. Starting now. Demir can handle the empire for a few hours. I'm taking my wife back to bed. Aslan Yilmaz, are you suggesting we actually enjoy our honeymoon? I'm insisting on it. He wheeled them toward the bedroom, Mia laughing in his arms. We have 3 more days of isolation. I intend to make every minute count. Day 6 of honeymoon afternoon. They'd found a rhythm. Mornings were for business. Aslan on calls while Mia reviewed contracts and financial reports, working as the team they'd always been. Afternoons were for them. Long talks on the deck, card games that got competitive, Mia reading aloud while Aslan's head rested in her lap. Nights were for discovering each other in ways that made 5 years of invisible pining worth the wait. Tell me something you've never told anyone, Mia said now, lying beside him on a blanket by the lake, sun warm on her skin. I wanted to be a teacher, Aslan admitted, before the family business pulled me in. Wanted to teach history of all things. Ottoman Empire. Imagine that. Professor Yilmaz. Mia smiled. I can see it. You'd be the intimidating one students were terrified of and secretly in love with. Like someone else I know? He turned his head to look at her. Tell me about the first time you knew you loved me. Year 2. You were negotiating with the Henderson Group. They wanted to lowball the merger price. You listened to their entire pitch, thanked them politely, then systematically destroyed every point with facts I'd compiled in the briefing. When they left, you turned to me and said, "Good work, Rodriguez. Couldn't have demolished them without you." First time you'd acknowledged I did anything beyond fetch coffee. I was an ass. You were. But in that moment, you saw me as useful, as competent. It was a start. She laced her fingers through his. When did you know? About me. The explosion night. When I saw your face without the glasses and armor. But really? He pulled her closer. It was when you told me to shut up and let you save my life. 5 years you'd been quiet, obedient, invisible. Then crisis hit and you became this fierce, commanding, brilliant woman. And I realized you'd been there all along. I'd just been too blind to see. Not blind anymore. No. Now I see everything. He kissed her forehead. I see the woman who saved my life, who married me when I had nothing to offer but danger and a wheelchair, who makes me believe I can walk again, who makes me want to try. 3 weeks, Mia said softly. Then surgery, then recovery, then whatever comes next. Whatever comes next, Aslan echoed. Together, together. They lay in comfortable silence, watching clouds drift across mountain peaks. For the first time since the first explosion, Mia felt something she'd almost forgotten. Peace. Not the absence of danger, that would never disappear from their world, but the presence of certainty, of partnership, of love that had been tested by violence and emerged stronger. Mia? Aslan's voice was quiet. Thank you for staying. That first night. Every night since. For choosing me when everyone else ran. She turned to face him fully. Aslan Yilmaz, I will choose you every single day for the rest of our lives. Wheelchair or no wheelchair. Empire or ashes. For better or worse. That's what marriage means. Even if the surgery fails. Especially if the surgery fails. Because then you'll need me to remind you that you're still the terrifying, brilliant, ruthless man I fell in love with. Just at a different height. He laughed. Real laughter. The kind that had been rare before her. I really don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. She kissed him. Now stop being sentimental and take me back to the house. We have 3 more days of honeymoon and I intend to make sure you're thoroughly distracted from business. Yes, ma'am. But his smile was pure happiness. Whatever my wife wants. As they made their way back to the house, Aslan's hand secure in hers, Mia realized this was what she'd dreamed of for 5 years. Not the mansion or the money or the title. Just this. Aslan seeing her, choosing her, loving her. Everything else was just details. Mount Sinai Hospital. Surgery day, 6:47 a.m. Mia held Aslan's hand in the pre-op room, trying not to let him see her terror. If something goes wrong, he started for the 100th time. Nothing will go wrong, she interrupted firmly, though her grip on his hand was white-knuckled. You're going to survive this surgery, endure months of painful therapy, and eventually stand up just so you can say, I told you so. Always so confident in me. He pulled her down for a kiss. That's why I love you. I love you too. So much it terrifies me. Her voice cracked. Come back to me, Aslan. Please. I promise. He touched her face, memorizing it. 12 to 14 hours. Then I'm yours again. Dr. Mehmet appeared with the surgical team. It's time, Mr. Yilmaz. Mia stepped back as they wheeled him away. At the doorway, Aslan turned back. Mia, you're the reason I'm fighting. Remember that. Then he was gone. The longest 14 hours of her life began. Aylin arrived within the hour, followed by Osman, Demir, and what seemed like the entire Yilmaz family. They filled the private waiting room, a sea of expensive suits and worried faces. But Mia sat apart, rosary beads she didn't know she owned clutched in her hands, praying to a god she wasn't sure she believed in. Please, please let him survive. I'll do anything. Just bring him back to me. Hour 3. Surgery progressing well. Nerve grafts successful so far. Hour 7. Unexpected bleeding under control continuing. Hour 11. Spinal cord decompression complete. Beginning microsurgery on nerve pathways. Hour 14. Nothing. Terrifying silence. Hour 15. Dr. Mehmet finally emerged, exhaustion lining his face. The room erupted in frantic questions. Mia couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He's alive, Dr. Mehmet said, and the world started again. Surgery was successful. All nerve grafts took. Spinal cord decompression complete. No complications beyond expected parameters. Will he walk? Aylin asked the question Mia couldn't voice. Too early to know. But everything we hoped to achieve, we achieved. Now it's up to his body to heal, and his will to fight. Dr. Mehmet looked directly at Mia. He asked for you. The moment he woke up, before we'd even finished closing, he was asking for his wife. Mia ran. Aslan looked terrible, pale, hooked to machines, bandaged and broken. But his eyes were open, and when he saw her, he smiled. Hey, wife. Hey, husband. She took his hand carefully, mindful of the IVs. You scared me. Sorry, but I'm still here, still fighting. His thumb brushed her knuckles. Did they tell you? The surgery worked, now I just have to do the hard part. Mia corrected. We do the hard part. Together. Together. He agreed and fell asleep with her hand in his. 3 months later, Yilmaz Estate Physical Therapy Room. Again, the physical therapist commanded. I literally just did it 5 times. And you'll do it 5 more. Come on, Mr. Yilmaz. Show me what that legendary Yilmaz stubbornness looks like. Aslan gritted his teeth, sweat pouring down his face as he forced his left leg to lift. 2 inches. 4 inches. 6. Good. Hold it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And release. He collapsed back on the therapy table, breathing hard. You're improving, Mia said from her spot in the corner where she attended every session. Last week you couldn't hold it past 3 seconds. Last week I wanted to throw this table through a window. This week too, probably. She brought him water, a towel. But you're doing it anyway. I'm proud of you. Something in his expression softened. 3 months of brutal therapy, slow progress, and crushing frustration. But Mia had been there for every moment. Cheerleader, taskmaster, and anchor all at once. 1 more set, he told the therapist. Then I'm done for today. Recovery was hell. Slower than anyone wanted. There were setbacks. Days when his legs wouldn't cooperate, when pain made him snap at everyone, when depression crept in dark and heavy. But there were victories too. The first time he felt sensation in his toes. The first muscle twitch that was intentional. The first time he stood, really stood, supported but upright, and looked Mia in the eyes at the same height. She'd cried, he'd held her, and then worked twice as hard the next day. 6 months post-surgery, Yilmaz Estate evening. Don't you dare, Mia warned as Aslan positioned his walker, determination written across his face. I'm just going to. You're supposed to use the wheelchair for long distances. Doctor's orders. It's 20 feet to the kitchen. It's 20 feet you'll regret when you collapse and set back your progress by weeks. She stood, hands on hips. Aslan Karim Yilmaz, sit down. Mia Elizabeth Yilmaz, I'm walking to my own kitchen. Stubborn. Pot, meat kettle. But he sat down in the wheelchair, grinning. Happy? Thrilled. She kissed the top of his head. You can walk to the kitchen tomorrow. Tonight you rest. Yes, ma'am. He pulled her onto his lap. Easier now that he had more core strength. Have I mentioned you're terrifying when you're bossy? Have I mentioned you're attractive when you follow medical advice? Liar. You think I'm attractive when I'm being impossible. Also true. She settled against him. How are you really feeling? Pain level? Manageable, 4 out of 10. He pressed his face into her hair, frustrated that it's taking so long but hopeful. That's new. Hope looks good on you. They sat in comfortable silence, the evening peaceful around them. The empire was stable. Aslan had thoroughly dismantled anyone foolish enough to challenge him. The family was secure, and slowly, painfully, Aslan Yilmaz was reclaiming his body. Mia, his voice was careful, I want to try something tomorrow, in therapy. What kind of something? Walking, really walking. Not supported steps, but actual independent movement. He felt her tense. I know it's ambitious, but I can feel it. I'm ready. If you fall, then you'll help me up. Like always. He turned her to face him. I need to try. Please. She studied his face, saw the determination and need there. Okay, but I'm telling the therapist to have extra padding ready for when your stubborn ass hits the floor. Deal. 1 year post-surgery. Yilmaz Estate. Anniversary morning. Mia woke to an empty bed and immediate panic. Aslan still had occasional setbacks. Her first thought was always injury. Then she heard music. Soft piano from downstairs. She threw on a robe and hurried down, following the sound to the ballroom where they danced at their wedding reception, and stopped dead. Aslan stood in the center of the room. Actually stood. No walker, no cane, no support. Just him, upright on his own 2 feet, wearing the same tuxedo from their wedding. Happy anniversary, wife. His smile was pure triumph and joy. Aslan. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. You're standing. I'm standing. He took a step, then another. Slow, careful but independent. Been practicing in secret for 2 weeks. Wanted to surprise you. He crossed the room, each step more confident than the last, until he stood before her. Then, with infinite care, he took her hand. Mia Yilmaz, may I have this dance? A real one this time. She was crying too hard to speak, so she just nodded. The music swelled. The same waltz from their wedding. But this time, Aslan swept her into his arms properly, holding her as they moved across the floor. His steps were measured, not perfect, but they were his steps. You did it, she whispered against his chest. You actually did it. We did it. He held her tighter. I couldn't have survived without you. The surgery, the therapy, the dark days. You were my reason to keep fighting. I love you so much. I love you too, more than I have words for. He spun her gently. And I have something else to tell you. If you tell me you're planning to run a marathon next week, I'm divorcing you. He laughed. No marathons, but he guided her hand to her own stomach. I think we should start preparing the nursery. Mia froze. What? You've been tired, nauseous in the mornings, craving pickles with ice cream, which is disgusting, by the way, and you're 3 weeks late. She'd been so focused on his recovery she hadn't noticed. Oh my God. There are tests in the bathroom. I bought them yesterday. His eyes were bright with hope and fear. Want to check? 5 minutes later, they stared at 3 positive pregnancy tests on the bathroom counter. We're having a baby, Mia whispered. We're having a baby, Aslan echoed, voice thick with emotion. He dropped carefully to one knee, still getting used to the motion. Mia, you gave me everything. You saved my life, stayed through my recovery, believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And now you're giving me a family. I will spend the rest of my life earning that gift. You already have. She pulled him up. He needed steadying, but he made it. We earned each other, through fire and blood and fear. This isn't a gift, Aslan. This is what we built together. He kissed her deeply, hands cradling her face like she was precious and sacred. Boy or girl? He asked when they broke apart. Does it matter? Not even a little bit. He touched her stomach reverently. Although if it's a girl with your red hair and attitude, I'm going to need therapy. You're already in therapy. Different kind of therapy, the my daughter is terrifying kind. Mia laughed, deliriously happy. We're going to be okay, aren't we? Better than okay. Aslan took her hand. Come on, let's go tell my mother she's going to be a grandmother. She's been dropping hints for 6 months. 3 years later, Yilmaz estate, spring morning. Daddy, faster. Aslan Yilmaz jogged across the lawn, carrying a 3-year-old girl with wild red curls and his green eyes on his shoulders. She squealed with delight as he picked up speed. Aslan, be careful, Mia called from the porch, one hand on her very pregnant stomach. You're still. I'm fine. But he slowed down, setting Aylin Rose Yilmaz, named for both grandmothers, gently on the grass. See? Daddy's legs work perfectly. Again, Aylin demanded. Later, Princess, Daddy needs to catch his breath. He dropped onto the blanket beside Mia, breathing hard but grinning. Tell your baby brother to hurry up. I want to meet him already. 2 more weeks. Mia leaned into him. And we don't know it's a boy. It's a boy, I can feel it. You said that about Aylin. And I was right. She's definitely someone's boy. Did you see her punch her cousin yesterday? She gets that from you. She gets everything from you. The attitude, the stubbornness, the way she looks at me like I'm both terrifying and ridiculous. Mia smiled, watching their daughter chase butterflies across perfectly manicured grass. Can you believe this is our life? Sometimes I wake up and think I'm still in that hospital bed dreaming. Aslan took her hand, the wedding ring catching sunlight. Then I see you, and our daughter, and this family we built from ashes, and I realize it's real. Any regrets? Only that I wasted 5 years being blind. He kissed her temple. But I'm making up for lost time. Yes, you are. She watched him stand. No hesitation, no pain, just smooth movement, and chase after Aylin. 3 years post-surgery, and he was fully recovered. Still did physical therapy twice a week as maintenance, but the doctors called him a miracle. Mia called him stubborn. Same thing, really. Mommy, Aylin ran over, clutching dandelions. For you. Thank you, baby. Mia accepted the weeds like they were roses. They're beautiful. Aslan joined them, pulling Mia to her feet carefully. Dance with me? There's no music. There's always music. He wrapped his arms around her, swaying gently. Besides, I promise to dance with you every day for the rest of our lives. Can't break promises to my wife. So they danced on the lawn while their daughter played, the spring sun warm on their faces, the future bright and beautiful before them. Mia thought back to that night 5 years ago. The explosion, the terror, the moment she decided to stay when everyone else ran. Best decision she'd ever made. I love you, Aslan Yilmaz, she whispered. I love you, Mia Yilmaz, he whispered back. Thank you for seeing me, for saving me, for choosing me. Always, she promised. Forever. And as Aylan's laughter rang out across their estate, as the baby kicked strongly in Mia's stomach as Aslan held her close with steady legs and a full heart, Mia knew this was what happily ever after looked like. Not perfect, but real. Not easy, but worth it. Not what she'd dreamed 5 years ago when she was an invisible secretary. Better. So much better.